Hi everyone, it's Lisa here. I'm delighted to be joining my favourite things this month on their YouTube channel. And today I'm going to be doing a card using a couple of sets from the August release. And I'm going to be showing a technique where I use Copics on Yupo cardstock. So let's get started. I'm beginning by taking the second largest die from the Stitched Arch STAX Die-namics, and I'm going to adhere that down onto some Neenah Solar White cardstock. This is £80 and I'm using a low tack tape to secure that down whilst I run that through my die cutting machine. And once I remove that from the die cutting machine, I'm going to make sure that I peel the tape off really carefully so that I don't rip the cardstock, and I'm going to save that little bit of cardstock to use for my Copic colouring later. I've cut a piece of Yupo paper to size here. I'm just going to double check that it fits behind my window, and then I'm going to mark off an area in which to colour. I actually probably could have coloured the whole piece of paper, but I didn't really want my ink going right to the edge as it was quite a snug fit on the base card. So I'm just marking that off with some pencil, and I'm going to start laying down the colour now. And this is a synthetic paper, and Copics work really well on it. People do use it a lot for alcohol inks, but I thought I would show you today how it looks when you use Copic markers on it. And I'm just running my marker across the paper here using a stripy motion. You can layer the colours up. They don't blend really in, or they don't blend into the paper. They do sit on top, so that you can go over them as many times as you like, and you can kind of blend in between one colour and the next. But it's a really easy technique, and I think it makes a really different background rather than having something that's ink blended. It has a lot of interest with the stripes, and also when you look at it closely you can actually see tiny little bubbles. It's not easy to see at the moment, but if you look at the close-ups of the photos at the beginning and the end of this video, then you'll be able to see that a lot better. So I just go over mine a couple of times and I check it against the window just to make sure that I'm happy with it. And now I'm going to move on to the Copic colouring. So I've taken the images from Doggone Awesome and also from Tutu Trio, and I'm going to stamp those onto some Neenah Solar White cardstock using Memento Tuxedo black ink. And then I'm going to move on with the colouring. So I've put the numbers up on the screen for you so that you can see what colours I'm using. And I'm doing some very basic Copic colouring here. Because the images are quite small, I'm actually going to be working from my darkest colour out to my lightest colour. This just helps me avoid any bleeding by going over the same area too often. So I just start by adding the first colour down, then the next colour. I'm blending out in between to try and make that transition as smooth as possible. The colouring really didn't take me that long. It only took about 5 minutes to colour all 4 images. I did colour 2 of the bones. I don't actually end up using both, but at the time I thought I probably would, so I've coloured a couple anyway. Really basic colouring. As you can see, there's just only a tiny bit of blending on the butterfly. I'm just using a slightly darker colour to add a little bit of shading in the middle. Once I'd finished the colouring, I took the coordinating dies, I adhered those down onto my cardstock with the low tack tape again, and I ran that through the die cutting machine. And I thought I'd add a little bit more interest, so I took a piece of cardstock, green cardstock, and I ran that through the die cutting machine with one of the Grassy edge Die-namics. So now I'm going to start assembling my card. The Yupo panel is going to be adhered to the base card using double-sided tape, and I'm just checking again that everything's going to line up properly, that everything's cut to size, and I add my tape onto the back of my Yupo panel, and then I'm going to adhere that down onto the base. And there is going to be some dimension in this card. I'm going to be popping the front panel up, but for now I want this back piece to actually sit flat for my little scene. At this stage I want to go ahead and stamp my sentiment onto the front panel. I use my MISTI to do this so that I line it up properly, and I'm just going to take some VersaFine Onyx black ink. It's a really crisp black ink, and I'm going to offset that greeting just to the side of the aperture. Before I go ahead and adhere this top window panel down onto the base, I want to add in that bit of grass that I die cut earlier. So I just put some wet adhesive around the bottom of the frame, and I'm going to just push that down and trim off the edges. Next I'm going to add some foam tape to the back of my window panel. I have been very generous here. I want to make sure that no part of this front panel collapses when the card gets mailed out. So I have used a rather generous amount of foam tape, and apologies for my head there, but I really need to make sure I line that up properly before I push that down. To complete the card, I just need to add the images that I coloured a little bit earlier. I've put some foam tape onto the back, and I'm now just going to position those within the arch. And it was at this point that I decided I would only use one of the bones. I have cut some of the footage out. I was playing around with both of the bones in different positions, and I couldn't really get a design that I was happy with. So in the end I just used one, and I ended up tucking it just behind the grass. For the finishing touches on the card, I'm going to be using a black glaze gel pen on the dog's eyes. I use this pen a lot. It adds a tiny bit of glossy dimension. You can't really see it in the video, but you can see it on the card in real life, and it just makes those eyes really pop. And of course no card would be complete without a little bit of sparkle, so I'm taking my Tonic Nouveau Aqua Shimmer pen. I'm actually squeezing a little bit off to the side, and I pick up the liquid from there, and I'm going to add that to the butterfly, the dog's nose, onto the bone, and also onto his paws. And that finishes the card for today. I really hope that you give this technique a try. It's really easy to do, and I think it provides a really nice alternative background for your project. It just remains for me to say thank you to everybody that's watched the video today. And of course a huge thank you to My Favourite Things for having me guest design during August. I've really enjoyed playing with the August release, and I hope to be making some more cards with it soon. Thanks again for watching. Bye for now.